A really warm welcome to everybody present here. The WinP team, Prachi, myself, we're all looking forward to a really wonderful event this evening with all of you, and we're so grateful that everyone has taken time out of their busy schedules to be here. Me, along with my friend Prachi, are going to be your hosts for this evening.
Hi everyone. It's really lovely to see a community of women come together to exchange thoughts and ideas, and most important, to build bridges.
Yeah, it truly is fantastic. So that deserves a round of applause for all of you for showing up. So thank you for being here. A quick. I'm a VP at HDFC Ventures. We invest off the balance sheet. We invest in companies like Smallcase, ID5, StockAl. Prior to this, I used to look at acquisitions and delivery. My previous role is that both my bosses were women, and I love meeting and networking with women, and it's so great to meet all of you here today.
Thanks. I'm Prachi. I worked as an investment associate at Jackdaw Capital. It's a VC fund based out of London. It's a Web3 crypto fintech investment, and I'm the only woman in the whole organization. And but prior to that, I used to work at RBL Bank, the very same building on the top floor. And I also worked at IMM the Bards Incubator for a while. So yeah, that's my introduction.
We're both WinP ambassadors.
Yay!
Yeah, and that's actually what's brought us together, the desire and the ability to sort of, bring more diversity and more inclusion in the investing ecosystem. And that's how we've actually met and become friends.
Yeah, that's great. And being ambassadors for the same is, we were brought together, and all of us together in this evening. I'm looking forward to interact with all of you and know all of you, and hopefully exchange ideas.
So recently, however, whenever I've been at an event, I've noticed that only 15 or 20% of the people in the room are women. So it's really nice to have a full house of women.
And following that thought, every time I say diversity hires or gender pay gap, men behave like we are personally targeting them. That's true.
We at WinP, or just in general, believe that feminism is just common sense, to be honest.
And if I had a nickel every time if I bring up, the pay wage gap, and everybody say it's a myth, I would be rich now and would actually fill up the gap.
So a big thank you to Nupur and to all the other ambassadors who work with us for sort of organizing events like this and bringing all of you all together. And if we have any other ambassadors here today, can we just get a quick cheer for them? And thank you all for being here.
All right. So I want to introduce Nupur. Nupur is a lead investor in private equity and venture capital, and an expert advisor to large institutional investors. She serves as chairperson of the board of Kids Clinic India Limited, and an independent director on boards of companies including Indigo Paints Limited, Kerala Infrastructure Fund Management, SIDBI, which is the Indian Development Financial Institute. She's an independent member of the Investment Committee of Fund of Funds managed by National Investment and Infrastructure Fund, NIF, the Quasi-Sovereign Wealth Fund sponsored by Government of India, and an advisor and member of the Investment Committee of Dutch Goods Growth Fund. She served as an external expert on the investment committee for INR 10,000 crore fund of funds for startups investing in Indian ecosystem. She's recipient of several awards and recognitions. I invite Nupur to come forward and say a few words. Welcome.
Thanks, Prachi. It was an embarrassingly long intro, so I'm glad we finished it when we finished it. So, hi everybody, good evening, welcome. We are very, very excited to be here at WinP. I think the Mumbai community of women investors and entrepreneurs is probably the most vibrant, and we've been with SheShines, we've been to Mumbai, Bangalore and Delhi, and nothing beats the buzz that we get here, so we are super excited. So I've got my notes here, and I'll keep referring to them. So this is our fourth SheShines, second in Mumbai. And I think what we've seen in these 4 events is the belief that we had which said that if we have to support each one of you in your professional growth and professional success, then networking has to be a part of it. And just seeing how these events have worked and the kind of feedback we've got, I think that belief was quite true. But, honestly for me, I don't believe in networks for the sake of networks, and I think most of you will agree with that. The controversial thing for me, and because this is WinP, it's just us, I can say it freely, is I also don't believe in sisterhoods. So I don't believe in bringing women together to sort of say, oh my God, I'm having a shitty time. I'm going through this, I'm going through that, and then we pat each other's back and, we sort of hang out. So I don't think WinP is here to find you your girl gang, as we were discussing earlier, or for you to find your best friends. But WinP is here, and Sushma, you reminded me of that. WinP is here to give you your networks that you can use to access people, information, deals, right? Whatever you need to get an edge in your professional life. And of course, in the course of all of these conversations and meeting all of these wonderful women, if you find your best friends, that's fantastic. But really what we want you to do here is to look around the room. It's a very, very cohesive group, and that's something we take a lot of pride in. We respectfully say no to women that do not, that are not actively in the investing space. So please leverage this time. Because we don't believe in just networks for the sake of networks, we also have a lot of knowledge and learning that happens at these events. We have a fantastic panel, and we've got some very senior women who are going to be hosting table discussions after the panel, so please take advantage of that. And then with that, we're going to notch it up to the next level. On 10th of March next year, we are going to be doing an industry conference only for women investors and women entrepreneurs, a full-day event at the Four Seasons in Mumbai. We'll have panel discussions, masterclasses, roundtables, whatever format. You can write into us, tell us what you want to experience, who you want to hear from. And in the evening, we are launching the WinP Awards, WinP Leadership Awards, which will recognize firms and individuals who are moving the needle in the private equity and venture capital ecosystem, moving the needle in favor of gender balance in the long run. So we are very excited. The day event is only for women to attend, and registrations will open soon. You'll all receive an email from us when registrations open. The evening is by invite, and there will be limited seats available for registration. So they will be available. So please, we look forward to seeing all of you and your friends. Spread the word, join us. Yes, I should not forget, we plan to make this an annual event. So mark the second Friday of March every year in your calendar for you to be in Bombay for something like this. Another exciting thing for us, we've just changed our logo. And I don't know if you saw that standee, the other standee there at the corner. This is the announcement, right? I mean, this is the first time we've put it out in public. It's a very exciting time for us. The new logo emphasizes the W, which is the women, and which is our focus, and win, which is again our focus, W, win. Lots going on for us, but we are so thrilled that we are with you today, and we couldn't ask for a set of better friends and better supporters. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy yourselves and you come back.
I want to thank A91 Partners for partnering with us today. They have been strong supporters of WinP since day one and firmly believe that more women are needed in boardroom for better decisions. Thank you, A91.
And now, before beginning, we'd like to introduce our incredible speakers from the investment industry and from the entrepreneurial space before we kickstart this evening. And to introduce the first one, here's
I want to introduce Asha Krishnan. She is Operating Director at General Atlantic. Asha provides strategic support and advice to the firm's portfolio companies in India and Southeast Asia with a focus on human capital. Before joining General Atlantic in 2019, she was SVP in IDFC First Bank, where she headed talent acquisition for the bank and HR operations for technology verticals. Prior to that, Asha worked with Tata Sons, where she rendered support to boards and nomination and remuneration committees to Tata companies. We welcome Asha. Asha would be speaking on value creation and engaging with portfolio founders.
The next speaker is Aradhana Meenawala. She is the co-founder of the Kai Store. I'm sure you've seen it on Instagram or in person. Aradhana is a postgraduate from Warwick University. She worked as a brand manager for the corporate branding arm of SR Group. She has always had a keen eye and flair for marketing. She always had the urge of doing something creative, but also environmentally conscious, and that's how Kai was born. Aradhana, along with her partner Dhanraj, together started the company in 2015, and her key roles include marketing, consumer service, and operations. Aradhana's topic is particularly interesting, at least for me. She's going to be speaking on funded versus bootstrapped. To her, it's the $1,000,000 question. So I hope some of you join her table and chime in.
Welcome, Aradhana. Next is Jolly Abraham. She is director at True North. Jolly joined True North in 2017, and she founded and now leads the legal function, advises on the legal and regulatory aspects of True North's investments and even exits. Prior to True North, she was partner at Desai and Divanji. Her practice spanned cross-border private equity, M&A, and financial transactions. She had commercial contracts and advised on corporate law, security laws, and foreign exchange law and contract law, a lot of legal stuff. Jolly would be speaking on viewing PE transactions from a legal lens. We welcome you, Jolly.
Our next speaker is Karuna Jain. She's a co-founder and partner of Enzia Ventures. Karuna has extensive experience and expertise in early stage impact and PE investing in healthcare and renewables. Prior to Enzia, she worked in senior positions at Acumen, the Aditya Birla Group, and Grasim Industries. At Acumen, she drove their investments in healthcare at a global level, managed a portfolio of 25 companies, and helped create an ecosystem for tech startups in healthcare, agriculture, and environment. Karuna will be speaking on launching your own fund, when and how.
The next is Vanita Katara. She is Managing Director at Russell Reynolds Associates. Over the last years, Vanita has successfully completed a number of CFO and CHRO searches in technology, healthcare, consumer goods, and industrial sectors. Her clients include BSE, NSE listed companies, private equity portfolio companies, as well as Indian subsidiaries of global multinational organizations. She has also worked with private equity and VC funds for recruiting talent for their portfolio companies. She would be speaking on developing your leadership skills. We welcome you, Vinita.
And lastly, we have Nidhi Guman, who's a senior EVP at IIFL. Nidhi is a fund manager with IIFL AMC's private equity team. In this role, she leads investments for IIFL's growth equity and pre-IPO equity funds. Prior to joining IIFL Asset Management, she was a principal at Multiples Private Equity, where she invested across growth, buyout, and turnaround situations in businesses in healthcare, pharma, and business service sectors. Nidhi will be speaking on exploring equity options across different stages. Nidhi might have a little bit of an urgent meeting, so my suggestion is catch her a little bit early before she leaves. We're now going to be moving on to our panel speakers. Post introducing them, we're going to be inviting them onto stage. So me and Prachi are just going to be moving to the side. And Prachi is going to begin the introductions.
I'll first introduce Rema Subramaniam. She's co-founder and managing partner at Ankur Capital. Rema has 4 decades of experience from 0 to 1 to 1 to 10 stages of enterprises, even founding a few and investing and even operational roles in others. Her career has been in category creating products and in future forward technology companies. Some of her notable experiences has been digitalization of financial services sector in early 90s, even EdTech at the start of internet, to digitization in SMBs in late 80s. She has helped businesses grow 20x on average across the companies and that she has worked with. May I request Rema to please come on board, come on stage.
Our next panel speaker is Sakshi Chopra. She's a managing director at Sequoia India. Sakshi is, she advises on growth stage investments across consumer tech, and fintech. Her portfolio includes businesses like 5-Star Business Finance, Go Colors, Healthcart, Haft, Indigo Paints, Purple, Wakefit, and UB, among others. Sakshi began her career with Deutsche Bank before joining Sequoia India in 2010. Sakshi, can I please request you to come to the stage and take a seat?
Next is Shushma Kaushik. She's partner at Avishkar Capital. Shushma is partner at Avishkar and brings with her 18 years of experience of diverse field with early stage investing, small business incubation, and even consulting across a lot of sectors. Shushma has worked to identify, manage, and exit large number of companies and has worked closely with several inclusive business entrepreneurs. May I request Shushma to please come on stage and take a seat.
The SheShines event is especially curated to encourage all of you to engage in meaningful conversations and build relationships here. You might find somebody to sort of, co-invest with, or just sort of a great friend. We're going to kickstart the evening with a panel discussion, and this will be followed by table discussions, which will be hosted by the women that we introduced earlier. We hope that you join a table post the panel discussion, and we also hope that you have meaningful conversations this evening and interact with women across the open floor networking post the table discussions and make the most of your evening today. Now that we all know the agenda, let's get this evening started without further ado. Thank you.
Thanks, Nupur, and thanks the WinPE team for having all of us here. It's my 3rd or 4th WinPE event that I'm attending, and I have always been gobsmacked by the kind of people I've met here. And it started with saying, there are not too many women in investing. And lo and behold, this is just one city, and that too one evening where few people could make it, right? So I think we are reckoning, and I think there's a lot more to come from all of us, right? And in all the WinPE sessions, whenever I speak to a lot of you, there is a very common ask, right? And the ask is from people who are getting into the investing ecosystem. They're like, we lack role models. We don't know how to chart our career paths. And hence, whoever they find, they try to seek help and guidance from. And I think today we have two fantastic women who have been in investing for a very long time. And Rema has also been an entrepreneur, right? She manages her own fund, and I see that there are a lot of us in this room who are launching our own funds. 10 years back, it was a rarity, and she has charted it. She knows the playbook, and she's the person we should be asking a lot of questions. And and of course, Sakshi has been in the dog-eat-dog VC ecosystem, and we would love to hear from her firsthand how she has managed what it entails, right? And only she knows it, right? I mean, we all see from outside and we wonder how do people manage, you know, cultures in different organizations are different. And so she's a person for that. But what I did even better is I spoke to a few of you, and few of you have been kind enough to share your questions ahead of this session. And those are the questions I will be throwing to them. And if you have any questions beyond that, feel free to ask. So shall we start, Rema? We'll start with a small rapid fire to both of you, okay? If you were to define your leadership style in 3 words, what would it be? You say one, then you say one, then next, next. That's how we'll do it. Okay, so I don't want to give you too much time to think. Start. Word, 3 words.
That wasn't the problem, was not that it wasn't, I didn't have the word.
You're buying time.
Yes, I'm buying time. I like to give, sorry.
It's okay, take your time. Yes, you can.
Yeah, maybe you could start with something.
Direct.
I like independence.
Empathetic.
Handhold.
Authentic.
Freedom.
Done. Great. So, thanks. And I put you on a spot. But if you noticed, the leadership style that came out was a nurturing and inclusive style. If there were 2 men sitting here, what do you think the response would have been? Would it be any of the words they took? Any thoughts? Maybe? Okay. So there is a Harvard Kennedy report which says that men believe leadership comes from aggression, comes from direct, comes from being out there. You know, all narcissistic, these are the words associated with male leadership. And hence, that's the playbook we have been seeing and growing up believing that that's how it's supposed to be. But there's a whole set of new kind of leadership emerging that we are seeing today in front of us. So I don't think it is required to follow a certain playbook that we have been seeing in the movies, that we have been seeing in workspaces, to believe that that's the norm. It's okay to be different, right? So now we'll ask, first I'll start with Rema. Rema, you've charted a very interesting career path before you have become a fund manager. How was it during your formative years of your career? Like, how did you know where you were headed?
No, I didn't know. In fact, when I look at younger folks today, and I look back, I feel that I was an idiot, not knowing about where I was going. But I had one thing very, very clear, which was that I always looked ahead. And that was in the initial years, as I said. Till one of my bosses, he said was the fact that, and this was early stages when you're this, he said that, and those days we used to look for jobs had to be through print ads that would come in. So he would say, it's a fact. I don't look at, don't look at ads otherwise. Only look for the CEO ads, because look at what the ad says and look at what they would looking for, and that's what you would aim for, right? So that stuck to me. And so since then, I've always been looking forward, and I always take the step forward, then decide whether I fall or not. I don't look down and I take the step forward. So that's been my thing. And as a leader as well, I have also as a manager as well, I have evolved, right? Today, I believe, like, and this has happened because of people that I worked with, that I've also changed over the years. So while I used to be a lot more directive earlier, now I believe is the fact that I don't think so, because I did not become what I am because I was directed, but I was given the space. So I have evolved as a person, as a career, saying that each one of us, like what you said, each one of us is different. We can evolve our own styles as long as the goals are, and we can work towards that. So I believe that. And I've changed over a period of time.
No,
from what I was.
that's important, right? I mean, you can't be the same forever. Then you're doing something wrong. But that's great. Just before I move on, one question to you: how has the workplace changed over time?
That's a good question.
Don't
It's
tell me
fact.
it hasn't changed.
It has and it hasn't, I would say, is a fact. So first is the fact that when I started my career, and I used to be a management accountant, and I did initially because I was a cost and works accountant. It also involved factory-led. Manufacturing used to be a big thing in the 80s, right? And two instances. One, Asian Paints. They did not consider my application because they didn't have a women's toilet in their factory. And there was another case where I sat there for a long time waiting to be called in for the interview. Then somebody came and said, we made a mistake because we don't recruit women in our factory. And that was at Mukunda Island Street. So I've had that experience to, obviously now that's no longer there. So that's a big change. The other thing that has changed is the fact that I do think, and this is contradictory of sorts, but people who started their careers in 80s and 90s, women, all had, there was a time, it's also because of the fact from an economic perspective, I think there was a lot more aggression in those women that they wanted to be economically independent. Today, I think that in the last 2 decades, what I see is the fact that the need for economic independence has gone down because they come from a family support or the other. The need for economics to be the driver has dropped. So I see a lot more women dropping out of the workforce because of that economic aggression not being there. So that has changed over a period of time in my work environment that I see that as.
I'll come back to you on the drop-off rates of women. That's a very important area we need to focus on. But Sakshi, to you now, how has your leadership evolved over time, right? And what has been your go-to skill that you have developed to adapt?
So when I think of my leadership style, it's still evolving. You learn every day. And I think what happens is in an investment firm, you only keep getting older, but the younger ones coming in are like, we have this program called the Analyst Program, where we take in young folks who have probably got 2 years of consulting or banking or operating experience. And they come in to do an analyst role for us. It's a rotation program. And after 2 years, the expectation is that, most of them branch out. They go do the MBA or they start up in today's context. And a very few of them even stay on, to have a longer track in the firm. And the realization every year is that, oh my God, I'm getting a year older, but these folks are like, the analyst batch is younger and younger, and they're so smart. And sometimes we joke amongst ourselves that, oh my God, if someone had to interview us today for an analyst role, we don't think we would stand a chance against these young people. So I think, so the key is like learning should never stop. And I think also, be super open-minded and always be willing to change. So I think that per se has shaped my my leadership style, my personality as well. I'm always open to ideas. Be less stubborn. Also be an excellent listener. Because I think great ideas emerge when you listen more than you talk, and just be open-minded. So I think some of these factors have just kind of transformed my leadership style. I think anyways, to be successful in any place of work, whether you're a founder or a professional, teamwork is the name of the game, and you have to, and therefore you have to imbibe the true values of collaboration. Teamwork. So I think, and absolutely non-hierarchical. So of course there are titles in a firm, But when it comes down to conducting business, you can get the best idea from the youngest person in the firm. So it basically means you have to be a flat organization. People should be okay to, or you should be okay for anyone to walk into your room at any point. So at least our culture is very open, and empowerment is the name of the game. So I think those are some of the things which I have learned while being at Sequoia. I didn't come from a culture like that. I was in banking for 5 years, which is super hierarchical, and you're just expected to do your piece of work and then go home. And here, no one tells you what to do. I think it's 12 years in counting, and I've never been told what I have to do. I know, basically, I just put my hand up, even till date, for stuff that I would like to do. So you're in the constant search to keep adding value, not to yourself, but also to the firm. So, yeah.
So can we ever put our feet up and say, I know it all?
No.
I don't think so. That can never happen.
Damn.
One of our ex-chairmen always tells us that you're only as good as your next investment, so never kind of rest on your old laurels and focus on what lies ahead. Because so you have to be paranoid at all points, because the minute you you sleep off on the driving wheel, you will crash.
Yeah.
And every new, like what she said, every younger folk that you meet, you realize you don't know so many things.
I was just going to say that. So we also have a great bunch of analysts and interns. And oh my God, I feel so insecure when I'm spending time with them. And some of them are here, but I do. Because they know so much more, they are so aware, they know what they want to do. I never knew what I wanted to do when I was their age. And I like the clarity of thought many of you have. You're so articulate. You can, put across your thoughts so clearly, which takes years of practice to get there. So you guys are doing a great job. So Reva, now coming back to you on that main point that you mentioned of drop-off, right? So have there been personal milestones that have caused professional setbacks? And you know what I mean, right? So there's marriage, kids, blah, blah, blah. So how have you navigated through it all? And what would be your advice to your younger self?
Okay. So the thing is that I'm unmarried. Okay, so I've not had this question, which is one thing. But at the same time, I come from an age where, one question that everybody would have is the fact that you have societal pressure. I would say is a fact that doesn't exist outside, it exists in your mind. Okay, and any question. So, and this was from a time when, 40 years back, when coming from middle class families, something. The first thing when my father was getting shifted out of Mumbai, and I got a job that was my second job, I think, just after, where I got back home. I got a job to be a management trainee in a large company, and I was very excited. But I was also not sure. I was very young, and I wasn't sure how the family would look at it. I was just surprised. I came back home. My 85-year-old grandmom said that, oh, that means that we won't be closing the home here, that you would continue to stay. So she was an 85-year-old person who has never stepped out of home. And that was her first reaction. Right? So I've been very lucky in the fact that people around me have always helped me keep my mind open and never made me feel that I was a woman and I have to make choices this way. So the choices were always based on what I wanted to do, not because what others wanted to do. Right? And I have always, on the fact of whether marriage or otherwise, again, I'd say is the fact it's a choice that a person makes. If they think that if the partner was somebody that they liked so much that they would want to leave what they're doing and go there, that's a choice they make. But to say that I'm giving up a career because I want to get married, then that's a different thing. And that's where I used to differ from, is the fact that I don't think, then you can't blame the marriage for that, because that's a choice you're making between marriage and your career. Then you can't blame the society for it, right? So I think it's been, and that hasn't changed in India even now. I'm just surprised at the fact that even recently, when I was talking to a bunch of college kids, engineering graduates, and they all said as fact, yeah, but at the same time, we may have to get married and we may have to move away. I'm just surprised that hasn't changed at all over the years. It's changed a bit, but still remains largely around the fact, and there's still a lot of women. One, if they say we are moving out because we want to build a career in whether outside India or other state, and if you're going on your own to build a career, that's different. But to say I would move out because I'll get married is, I think, just a conditioning we have to get out of.
That'll take generations,
I
probably.
don't think so.
Right?
I don't think so. And I think everybody in this room can make that decision. I mean, I don't think that you make a choice, right? And if you're going to make a choice for somebody whom you have, and if it's an arranged marriage, and you haven't met that person and you're making that choice, then you're making a choice for marriage, not for a career. Then you can't blame the society for it.
Same question to you. Yeah, so have you encountered professional setbacks because of personal choices? And that's the whole job.
Not really. I've not. I think I've been fortunate. I come from a fairly progressive household. While my mother wasn't really a working woman through her life, that's also largely because my father was in a government bank, and we got transferred, every 2-3 years to a new city. And my mom, at some point, couldn't cope with, my dad's professional career. Like, she had to kind of sacrifice. But I think both of them had especially my mom actually, had the fire in the belly that, you must be independent and you must do something. And I mean, through my teenagehood and even in my 20s, I was always egged on to take a chance and just do, what I feel is right. If I wasn't having fun in a job, I was always encouraged to go discover and explore something else. When I stumbled into this career, again, I had the support of my family. And then as life moved on, I married a self-made professional, and I think he's probably the proudest of me, and he eggs me on, to basically he pushes me. I think today, I owe him a large part of my success, and I think and I think you choose who you want to surround yourself with, and of course, it doesn't mean that the journey is easy. And I have also, I became a mom 4 years back, and at that point, that was probably the most crucible moment in my life. Till then, life was quite pleasant. It was a breeze. That's when I was like, oh shit, now, I can't come home at 8, 9, just waltz in at home. Like, there is a little, baby, and I have to attend to this person. So you're more responsible, and suddenly, life changes overnight when you have a kid. And I think that was like the hardest, I would say, moment for me, the realization that dawned that, okay, I'll have to make a few adjustments, and it was hard. But I think, no, I have never taken, thankfully, I think I've been blessed that way, professional setbacks. But I think you have to keep adjusting and changing who you are as your circumstances change. But I would say the key is to surround yourself with people who cheer for you, who egg you on, and who encourage you to take a lot of risks and push you, make you do something which is slightly more out of character as well. And I've stayed on in this firm because I'm surrounded by colleagues and founders who also push you, and at the same time are super empathetic when you're going through a tough moment, and are there to kind of lend their support. So I would say, knock on wood.
Great. No, that's good. You're lucky, because I don't know how many people have the same kind of fortune that you had, to be in that kind of family that empowered you to find the right partner, to have things that have worked out the way it
luck,
has.
I don't think everything is, was so pre-calculated.
Luck,
I do feel luck plays a massive role.
I will beg to yes, the birth at a certain pin code, yes, that's luck. After that, it is choice, as she said. And Nupur always makes a point, and this is very important for all the youngsters here, is marry right? And if you are focused on your career, ensure that you marry right. Because that, even she said it, you need to have the right partner. You're not just marrying a man, a husband. They are your partner, and they will ensure that your career pans out the way it should, right? If it has to be full potential, then the person should back you 100%. And I can say that because I'm blessed with a great partner, and I have 2 boys. I have my hands full. I also have a 4-month puppy right now, and still my life continues, right? So it's not as bad as one thinks it will be if you have the right people around you. And again, another input I think Nupur only gave it is surround yourself with a very large village, because you do need that village to get your life ahead, whether it's with kids or anything else. But coming to the drop-off point.
Maybe I want to add something there. I think finally it comes down to your individual conviction. If you want to do something, because if you have that, if you're lucky to have the right ecosystem around you and you have that weak moment, the folks around you will egg you on, encourage you to take that step. But I think most of the times you have to seek conviction from within, and if you want to do something, then you have to ask for help. I think that's what women don't do a good job in. They don't ask for as much help. Most of us have been brought up to be super women, and you should be good at everything that you do. Never ask for help. That's a sign of weakness. I think that's completely wrong. You have to learn to be vulnerable. You have to ask for help, because if you don't ask, people are not mind readers. They won't know what you want.
That's very rightly said. So Indra Nui in her book has written, women can't have it all. And when she wrote that, I was so upset. I said, how can she say that? Because I do look up to her, and I was like, if she can make it, we can make it. Nothing stops us. And then when you read her book, yes, Nupur.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hold myself back. I think the concept of having it all is such a male concept. I don't agree with it. What do you define as all? You assume what men have is all.
No.
Yes, that's how it starts.
No, what all means is balance.
No, so do men have it all? So do men as fathers do everything that women as mothers do? That you want women to be able to do it all like men do. So I just think the
Absolutely.
concept is flawed because it assumes that men have it all. So I couldn't resist.
Or defining what
What
all
all
is as
is,
well.
exactly.
And that's where I completely agree with it. I mean, I don't agree with I agree with you that it's a,
Having it all means having what you want. That's it.
absolutely, at any point of time, it's a choice you make of what you want. And you have it all then.
Absolutely. It's in your mind.
Absolutely.
Great. Then the drop-off points that you mentioned, it's been identified that there are 3 drop-off points for women in career. One is marriage, the second is childbirth, and third is elder care, right? And these have been identified as critical junctures in women's life where they are at crossroads. How have you designed your workplace or your team to empower them to overcome these kind of crossroads and continue to be there with you?
So one is that even if you go beyond now, post-COVID, obviously, there's been a whole lot of the whole work from home and all that has got more well defined. But even before that, in my whole career, I have seen that organizations that I have worked with have always supported, whether it was women wanted a break or whether there was a health or whether there was, I think over the last 20 years or so, I have seen as a fact that at least in most of the progressive industries, you see that the support is coming through as well. I think that's where I think her point of saying the conviction that you have of saying, do you put your career ahead of what you've, is a conviction that you need to have. If you have that conviction, I think you can make it work with your organization, with your family, with the village that you put around you. You can make it work. But then you have to have that conviction that you want this, your career.
How bad does one have to fight for it?
If you have a conviction, the world will conspire to get it for you. Okay. And yes, there may be, and I'm saying, you have to take the median. Okay, there could be extremes where families, you could have families where honor killing could be there, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the world is like that, right? So I think that there is a whole, that conviction has to be very strong. That women does not mean that you have to make a choice all the time, but it's a fact that I as an individual would like to be in a career, whether it is in terms of an upward growth or whether it is in terms of enjoying what I do, not just because of an economic reason, but just because that gives me joy of doing it. And if you have that joy, you will find ways to make that happen doing other things as well. Right? So that thing to do something on your own has to be very, very strong, not because you're not compromising. Everything that you do, it's like, you decide to have something to eat. It's at the cost of something else that you don't eating. But you decide that I want to eat rice today. You're not going to all the time say, oh, I didn't eat chapati today because I ate it. You're making a choice, right? Everything small thing that you do. So to me is the fact that somewhere that conviction, women need to have that, I want to be XYZ, and I would do what it takes to do that. If you ask it, people around you will give it to you. If you don't ask it, and if you think it's my responsibility, then that's what it is. Right.
Sakshi, coming to you, what have you done in your workplace to make it easier for younger versions of you?
So when I joined the firm, I was probably the only woman employee, and then soon, we kept adding. And back in the day, this gender equality wasn't such a big narrative, and it was not a topic that was very actively discussed. But over the years, I think as it got attention, and we are a fairly progressive firm, we added more and more women leaders to the investment team and across other functions as well. I think I feel that, so I'm an outsider. I did not, so when I joined investing, at that point, the venture capital industry only hired consultants. So that was the thumb rule. If you're not a consultant, go work with a consultancy and then come back. But I think I was an outsider. I joined, I didn't have any consulting background. I had a banking background. And when I came in, I was a non-engineer and I was not a consultant. And, it was not easy. And there are many lonely moments, not only because you're the only woman, but also, you don't have too much of familiarity with your colleagues. You don't have any past connections. So there's no icebreaker as such. You have to go and break ice with everybody individually. So, and no one knows you. And look, our business is something where it's based on trust. So trust takes time to get built. So it's a long game that you have to be willing to play. I think the one thing which, at least mentally, I always think of life in decades, and I was willing to play the long game. But I recognize today that when you are a minority or when you're an outsider, how hard it is. And it's especially hard for the young ones. So I don't think, I think I'm far more empathetic to folks who are those outsiders, and I spot them. And whether you're a woman or you're a man, it doesn't matter. I feel that, I actively mentor those folks. So, that's the culture, and that's me, and yeah, that's at least. So what happens is that at least, they feel that they have someone they can go and speak to, and just figure out how do you survive, how do you fit in, and how do you get on with life. So I think empathy plays a really big role. You have to figure out who needs that little bit of pull more than the others.
No, absolutely. I think, and I think many women leaders have displayed this particular trait in them and are looked up to because of this. How are we doing on time? We're done? Okay. Just one last question can I ask, which it came from there, but just very quickly, who are the women leaders that you have found inspiring, that you looked up to?
My mom was definitely one of them, and all the extended this. I've had women bosses in my career, and I have looked up to them. And I liked Indira Gandhi.
Great. Yeah, you're one of those few women who said you looked up to a woman boss, because normally there's a little friction there.
I've not had a woman boss, and so I've not been that fortunate. But I would say that women who have inspired me, it's probably from, I've drawn a lot of inspiration from my mom. Actually, my mom-in-law is someone I look up to, and she's a very independent woman and extremely fierce. So there's something new to learn from her every other day. And my sister is my biggest cheerleader.
Nice, great. Open to questions now. Yes. Will there be mics?
Can I just say something while she takes the mic there? You can take the mic there. So this is one incident about Sakshi. She said direct. And I'll give you a classic example of what I heard about Sakshi. And this was somebody who's worked with her who has deep appreciation and admiration. So apparently, Sakshi and her male colleague were interacting with a potential investing founder. And that person sent an email asking Sakshi to schedule a meeting. And most women, people assume this all the time, if you're the woman copied on the email, you're his sister. And most women will hesitate to call that out. Now, Sakshi, in a very direct but respectful tone, apparently wrote in the email, Mr. So-and-so, I believe you're looking for this person's assistant. I want to do this or something like that. And I'm copying the assistant who will help you schedule. So very direct, very respectful, but a very small thing that most women will say, "Choro, hota rehta hai." But it earned her a huge amount of appreciation and admiration from her male colleagues and male seniors. So I think what women miss frequently is the fact that it's okay to correct stereotypes as long as you're doing it in the right way. It will not go against you, but it just sort of gets added how people are thinking of you, because nobody's doing it intentionally, and most people are not doing it intentionally. So when you said direct, I was instantly reminded about it. I need to share this.
Good question.
Hi, I just had a quick question, and just coming out of curiosity. We often hear the word unlearn. So in your journeys, what have you, unlearned in life? And would you have any recommendation for this generation of entrepreneurs or, young leaders, what they should unlearn?
I can take a stab. So one thing I've already referred to, which is, we hesitate to ask for help. This is something I unlearned, and now I ask for help all the time. So, and you're surprised, people are very helpful, and people are always willing to help. I think most folks are coconuts, they're quite, they look stern from the outside, but they're very soft from inside. So if you ask for help, you're approaching the tender coconut side of the coconut, not the shell. So that's one. Second is communicate. I think in life you have to over-communicate. It's important to say what's on your mind, what's important to you, and what you don't like. Because, if you don't communicate directly, you will never build a relationship. It's going to be a very superficial relationship. I think, and I've unlearned this. I used to always hold back, and I realized that I'm not building very deep relationships. So until I also start to disagree, how will we ever have a real conversation? How will we ever make progress in our relationship? How will this person ever trust me? Otherwise, they'll say I'm a yes person. So I think, over-communicate, or rather communicate what's on your mind. Don't hold back. And maybe the third thing I would say unlearn is, something may have worked for you at a certain point in time, or something may be working perfectly well for your respective business at a certain point in time, but you should be willing to, but like strategy always needs to be revised, to be tweaked, right? So I would say keep unlearning, like, the market has changed. And for example, what I'm trying to say is, like, I do a lot of consumer brand investing. And there was a certain formula, like, things we wanted to hear when we used to meet founders, that what are the 5-6 metrics of your business, what's working, what's not working. So in my head, okay, I was like, okay, the minute I started hearing the answers I wanted to hear, I used to be like, oh, good business. But I had to unlearn that because the market has changed and ways of conducting business has changed. So I should be willing to unlearn the past and be open-minded and be willing to listen, because sometimes, there's a new way of doing things, and if you're not open-minded, you will miss the opportunity. So it applies to a professional, it applies to your personal life, and also to a founder.
I would add as a fact that perseverance, there's a lot of times that whether it is intentional or unintentional, you will have folks sending you an email saying that. And similarly, you will, all said and done, even at this point of time, there's a bias that exists. So there would be it's easy to give up. So you would need to persevere in your career, whether it is to convince your boss or convince your others. So don't give up is one thing. And the second bit is also about the fact that keeping yourself, especially we're all in an industry where technology is all pervasive, and that's changing all the time. All of you are young today, but in a few, the generation, so in a few years, you will find that, folks coming in here. So you need to keep yourself open and just also giving that space to the newcomers who are coming in. If you have to grow, is something that I have learned over a period of time. So there was, every time I have to keep telling myself, I don't know it all, is something that has helped me grow. Or rather, I would say, in fact, people around me have helped me grow.
I can also go, but I think we should move on to the next question.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a question. This is Megha here. I started my own fund. So there is a perception that a lot of women don't promote younger women in their firms, in their positions, because once you become a minority, you enjoy being the minority. So do you agree with this, or have you seen this play out? Because this is another criticism that comes from the sisterhood program and diversity, equality, inclusion. That one, it is kind of becoming a quota, and the second is a lot of women leaders are not really promoting women because you like to be the only one in the room, etc. So do you see that in your careers, or what's your perception there?
I know there's a lot of debate around this, and look, it may apply to a few women, because there is a certain, if you're the only one who's achieved and got there, the spotlight's on you, and of course you do enjoy that moment in the sun, and it may apply in some cases. But I would say, in businesses, to succeed rather, you need to build folks around you, an ecosystem around you, and a set of peers around you who really cheer for you, and who are like your inner circle. And I think you will always be lonely if you don't have, you don't have a few men and a few women who are, part of your inner circle. And you can't build that inner circle till you help. I think you have to first give in to be able to get in any relationship. So my view is I think it's really important, and at least I would say it's also, what's the culture your organization defines. You kind of also embrace that in your way of doing things. So I think there are a lot of organizations who want the younger folks to succeed because they represent the future of the firm, right? And everyone has a shelf life, and at some point when your time is up and you have to move on, you want to leave the firm in good hands. I think if you follow the meritocratic approach, then whoever's the best person to be doing that job, you will nurture that person. So look, I think if you assume the role of a leader, you have to think a little differently, from my limited view.
And I would disagree with the fact that women don't recruit other women. Okay. So one is the fact that, and I haven't met that in my long career, I don't think so I would have met women who would say I won't recruit women. You have to look at the fact that a woman may have come into an organization with, there's no spotlight. Okay, there's no organization where if you're the only woman, it's not like you're celebrated or any such thing. So the point is a fact, so you always feel odd, so you'd always look for other people who can join. So it's not like you're going to become a queen and everybody is going to be at your feet. So there's no reason to give that reason. So I think it's a myth that's been promoted as one. The other is the fact that you may not be in a position to do that recruitment of other women in the organization. It's just because of the fact you're a manager. Doesn't mean that you have all the powers to recruit whom you want. Even there's going to be another set of people in the organization who's deciding who's going to be recruited, right? So more often than not, the decision is not in their hands, is one. The third thing is the fact that if you want, at some point of time, is that if you are in a particular role and you want to succeed in that role, you will want to be seen as a person who's working, because you have a KRA, and that KRA defines what you have to do, right? And so you will be working towards ensuring those KRAs are fulfilled. If you have to take on an additional KRA of saying, I want to be the diversity champion, whether the organization allows that, you would need to answer that question as well. You may or may not be in a position to take on the diversity agenda in that organization, right? You can't be an activist everywhere. So you've got to put all of that in the context. And I think this myth that women managers don't recruit other women managers, or women managers are more difficult to work with, are all myths that I think we should just let out of this room. And I think those are all 20, 30 years back. I think we just have to move on to the next stage where we have more women in the room. We have to see how we get beyond the gender, and the gender is not just women and men, but also, other genders as well.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree. So I don't know so much about the hiring. Yeah, sure.
So, the way you mentioned, right, women are not celebrated. So not on a professional side, but on a personal side, I would like to share something on how when I go right. My husband is a businessman. He has offices across the nation, and I got a car from my own money very recently last year. But people assume he bought me that. They never give credit that, I could have earned it for, and they assume that, I'm doing it just out of hobby to pass my time. Never people really appreciate that, you are an ambitious person, you are doing it on your own. And we don't want to go out and give explanations to everybody, right? So how, in the back of the mind, it always stays, right? Though you have a supportive family. But the image will always be that she's got it all ready, everything is set, and people don't really know that you are really working for it and making it on your own. So how to deal with that? Because I'm sure everybody would have faced it at some point in time or other.
Why does it bother you so much?
Because social recognition. Yes, social recognition.
But I'm guessing you're getting the recognition in your workplace. If you're saying some neighbor thought you bought a car because your husband, then...
In the workplace, definitely, yes. That's why I said it's not professional, in workplace.
Does it bother you then if it is not in your workplace?
It does at some point in times in social gatherings, family events. But yeah.
No, social.
Look, I face it even after so many years of being a working woman. When I go for a social event, like someone comes up to me and my husband and they'll ask my husband, so what do you do? And he says what he does. And then with me, they're like, that's it. They just smile. They just assume I don't work. And I also, now I play along, so I also smile back. And then, when they're having a more intelligent conversation around business, world politics, etc., and if I add my 2 cents, they'll look and say, do you work? And I'm like, yes. So, look, I think the single source of truth is that you got to believe in yourself. You have to celebrate yourself every day. It doesn't matter if the world celebrates you or not. They eventually will. Believe me, just have a longer term view in life. You just keep doing what's right for you, and you believe you should celebrate yourself every day. Like, wake up and tell yourself you're doing a damn good job. Like, you know, you're a smart professional. You're a good family member. You're looking after your family. You're a provider. You're a great colleague. People enjoy and love being around you. People are learning from you. You know, you're nurturing younger folks. I think that is true recognition. It doesn't matter what a stranger really thinks over a period of time. Hopefully, they'll also fall in line. And if they don't, too bad for them. They missed out on knowing you.
That's something that you will face all your life, right? I mean, that takes, the society will take much longer to realize that this person could have a career of their own or otherwise. And you will start facing, I mean, I have faced the problem not just of being a woman, but also because I have gray hair. People assume that I'm not doing anything. So, so the only thing, the way I do it is the fact that sometimes, like for example, when I'm walking, and I know this younger guy who thinks that I walk faster than him.
So I think that's a wrap.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.